it's Fjordström. Last year and this year I made concept videos about external monitor support on iPadOS 14 and iPadOS 15, but sadly until now Apple didn't add anything of external monitor support on iPadOS, so we still rely on third-party apps and especially Shiftscreen. But Shiftscreen has changed. Shiftscreen 4X has been released today, and there are a whole bunch of new features that have been added, and actually this whole app has been rebuilt from the ground up to really support as much as possible. It's a big difference with the previous version, so if you've tested out Shiftscreen in the earlier years like Shiftscreen 1, 2, 3, then you should really check out what Shiftscreen 4X has to offer. Okay, now just before we get started, I just want to make something clear. You still cannot add an app, a real iPad app here while you're working on something else on your iPad. That's the whole thing I want Apple to really add in the future. But what Shiftscreen can do is really the most an app developer can do on iPad. Let's have a look. So let's just open Shiftscreen here on iPad. And so this already is different than before. It will tell you your resolution over there. And this is now orange, but this is something you can change. Normally it's purple, which is also the Shiftscreen icon, but you can change the color, which we'll see later in the settings. Anyway, the big change now is that you can open windows. So not just one full screen thing or two full screen or even multiple full screen things. No, you can really have floating windows here now. So let me just open it over here. You can either do Command N, by the way, or you can use the launcher. So here, that's one more thing that's very new. You have the launcher with some window controls over here, even brightness. You can add multiple desktops, and over there we have the launcher where you can just quickly launch, let's say for example, a web browser or Google Sheets or something, or Google Meet. Okay, there are a few things here that are grayed out, like Excel, Word, and Teams, but actually those work as well. So I will show you how Teams works in a few minutes. First of all, let's just open a simple web browser. So there we go. And this is just a floating window. You can also open multiple tabs in a floating window, and with Command N, you could even add a second window and have that float around as well. Okay, so that's a huge difference with the previous version of Shiftscreen. You can also resize these windows, by the way. And everything that's in the window will also automatically resize. For example, here, let's open Shiftscreen's website like this. And we have this, you can scroll over here. You can also go back to the left side, work on everything here, and so on. But of course, you might think, yeah, okay, it's still mirroring everything. Although then again, first of all, you don't have any black bars on the sides. That's really a huge difference. But also is you can on iPad you can, well, as long as Shiftscreen is open, you can open Twitter, for example, and resize this, and just do other stuff here in Twitter. Use an iPad app here on your left side, while you are still using this here on the right side, or however you position your screen. But there's more. Video chats is now supported, so you can actually have a Google meeting over here or a Microsoft Teams meeting over here while you're still working your iPad on your iPad screen. I'll be demonstrating also in a few seconds. So, multiple screens, and not only just multiple screens, but also picture-in-picture YouTubing. So for example, here we have a video playing here on YouTube. You can scroll through everything if you want. Just keep in mind, of course, the video can play on just one screen at a time. So after a few seconds, it will move to your large screen while it can work on other stuff on your iPad. But there's now a new button over there, which is a floating picture-in-picture mode. So if you tap on that, then the video will open in a separate window. And now you can just switch between tabs while this one here is still floating. Open a new window, work on Wikipedia, let's say, just saying something, and while your video is floating here in the foreground. So you can just make it a bit larger like this, and you can still watch your video. You can also move this around, so that's very cool. You can just move it around on your screen. You can also resize it, make it larger, smaller, and so on. Let me just put it here on the bottom right, and it's still playing here. Imagine having a very large screen or a very curved long screen, for example. That would be really cool to have a floating window. Okay, so that's one part. Next, let's try out some other very useful parts, which are, for example, Office. So office.com. Right now here in Word, and what I can do now is also open something else. Let's say, again, open Twitter. I always take Twitter as an example. Make it like this, and now let's say I'm going to type what is over here. So I'm going back to my large screen over here, and I can start typing. And if I want, I can even I can just highlight stuff, change the color, make it a bit larger, I can use all these menus that are available here on top. I can extend those menus into the classic ribbon. So yeah, I can just do anything that I want that I would normally do on my iPad, but then now on an external monitor, which is much larger. Now, besides Office, I could also go now to other things here in Microsoft, including Microsoft Teams. And everything here works as expected. Now, important to note now here is that you have to allow something, just like on Mac. If you want to visit Microsoft Teams on Safari, you have to enable cross-site tracking. That's something that Microsoft requires when using this on Safari. So you have to go to the settings of Shiftscreen, like the real settings app, then go to Shiftscreen and allow it there, then it works, or at least that's how I had to do it to make it work for me. But once that's cleared, you can just use Teams like you usually would. So let me just open a meeting over here. So you have to allow this website to use your camera and microphone. I'll just hit always allow. Then we have our audio and video on. By the way, again, just like with video on YouTube, you can see yourself right now on your iPad, and if you like not touch your iPad for a little while, it will move to the screen, which isn't really a problem if you're going to use this the whole time. So let me just go back over here. Devices, it does recognize everything, your iPad microphone, your front and back camera. Let me just hit join, and then it will connect, and now it totally works. Make it a bit smaller, open a second window. And so here I am, I have my Microsoft Teams meeting here on the left side, communicating with people like this. I have my Word document here on the right side where I can make a report of what I'm doing right now or what we're talking about. And while I'm still secretly scrolling on Twitter here, and yeah, that's all. I mean, this expands really your possibilities here with Shiftscreen. Now, this has all been Microsoft. Let me just switch now to Google stuff. Okay, and here I am again. So on the left side, I have Google Meet open. My microphone is really being recognized, as you can see here. And on the right side, I have my Google Documents, where I can again type a report of what we're talking about. This is a boring meeting. And yeah, I can just keep on doing this again while doing other stuff here on my iPad. So yeah. Super cool. But if I take screenshots, that may be also very useful to know. If you take a screenshot of everything, so Command Shift 3, then a screenshot of both things are saved. So look here now on the left side, I have here my iPad screen, and this here is the screenshot of my screen, of my external monitor, I mean. And that is really awesome, actually. Now, I had a very specific question from someone. Let me just open my YouTube Studio. And there's a question here. I teach and keep my notes on my iPad, but also want to run my Google Slides presentation from my iPad. Would this allow me to cast my Google Slides to a projector full screen while opening Google Docs next to it? So let me just try it out, because that's indeed a very good question. If you're a teacher, this is honestly very useful. Let's say, I mean, Shiftscreen, of course. If, for example, you use your screen to project your book, let's say, and you want to show the answers of the book on the board, but not everything in one time, you could show your book over here. Of course, it will depend on the website that you're going to serve to. While on the left side here on your iPad, you could look at the notes you made so your lesson can progress the way you want it. So that is an option, but I can't guarantee, of course. It will really depend on the web apps that you use to show that book. But for that specific question, let's go to Google Slides instead. Slide 1. I have a few options. I have my presenter view and present from the beginning. I cannot use presenter view because that will literally just be mirrored, so that's not possible. Let's just use the normal present mode. That's slide 1. And I can control with my arrow keys over here, left, right, the slides. That's important to note. You always have to move your mouse back to the screen over here to be able to control and click to be sure to control it. Is this the full potential? Not yet. So remember, you can open multiple screens, you can run a video conference, you can watch a YouTube video, you can do anything here on your external monitor. On your iPad right now, I have been using just one app, but actually we can use 2 apps. Slide over also exists. So if you just slide over from the left, I have Spotify right now here. So there's just so much possible right now with Shiftscreen, especially having multiple floating windows really makes it very powerful. Now, if you have Shiftscreen open and you only have it at 1/3 of your screen, it could be a bit small to click on things like opening new windows and so on. So instead, we can use keyboard shortcuts. Just long press on the Command key to find out which exist and then try them out. Let's say, for example, Option Shift D will open a new desktop, and I can open new windows, have a whole like work-related thing over here. Well, I can just switch between desktops with this button over here. I can go to desktop 2, or desktop 1 and go back to things I've been working on earlier. So that is how easy it is to create new desktops. And what else is fun is Command Shift H, which hides the top bar. Then Command Shift H, and I can just focus on Word. This is awesome. It's just a very small thing, but that I really like. Now there's just so many options over here, so many keyboard shortcuts. Just try them all out and see if you'll use them over using your trackpad or mouse. Shiftscreen 4X is now available on the App Store. Please hit the like button if you found this video useful. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.